And welcome to this episode of the Capitalized Life and Retirement Show. I'm your host, Matthew Johnson, president and owner of Johnson Wealth and Income Management, a retirement income source located in Clear Lake, Humboldt, and Ankeny, Iowa. Well, how are you today? Hope you're doing well, taking a little bit of time for yourself. And regardless of how you're listening or watching, I just want to say a good welcome to the show. Today, we're going to be discussing something that is quite uncomfortable. It is something that is becoming more and more prevalent. As a financial advisor, as a fiduciary, I have unfortunately had to go through this a number of times with clients, and it's something that I think we all need to be very aware of. Today, we're going to be discussing love scams. And this is maybe a topic that is a little uncomfortable for you. Maybe you're thinking to yourself, I'm never going to fall victim to something like that. And I hope you don't. But the reality is these things are getting more pervasive. They're getting more subtle. They're getting more seductive. And you need to be aware of it. Maybe it's not something that will affect you, but it could affect the life of a loved one. And so today we're just going to be discussing some of our experiences as advisors and firms. I'm hopefully wanting to bring awareness to this because it is getting to be one of those generational things where as the baby boomers get older and things begin to slow down and there's a higher degree of isolation, these things can very much creep into a person's life. And so if you've been noticing maybe some behavior changes, these are things that may be helpful to help you identify when a person is struggling with something like a love scam. Now, if you're brand new to the program, again, a very warm welcome, but I encourage you, go to our website, johnsonwim.com, where you will find just an abundance of material. If you're the learner, you're the sponge, you're the person that wants to figure out how is it that I can retire successfully? What are the key ingredients that I need in order to be able to retire and to live the lifestyle that I want? Well, I believe you've come to the right place. I encourage you to go to that website where you'll find an abundance of white papers that touch on various financial relevant topics. There's also past radio shows and YouTube videos that we've posted over the years. And if you're more the reader type, I encourage you to get a copy of my book, The Capitalized Retirement, something that is down to earth, it's basic, straightforward, something that will show you how to take that bucket of money that you've worked so hard to accumulate and now turn it into an income stream that you can receive income from for the rest of your life. With the fear of running out of money before running out of life, turning on and creating income the right way is certainly a vital part of retiring successfully. And I want you and I want your spouse and I want your family to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor by doing it correctly. So let's get into today's topic. What prompted all of this was yet again another client who I believe had been touched by this, what I would consider to be a very damnable trick. This is something where more times than I care to count, clients have come to us. Generally speaking, this is not going to be a couple. This is going to be a widow or a widower. This is one of the hallmarks of these stalkers. They are going to look specifically for older individuals. They're going to look for individuals that have lost a spouse or they are unmarried. And they're going to try to develop a relationship with them. Now, I don't know exactly where my clients go online. It's none of my business. But I'm assuming in some way, shape, or form, either this has been perpetrated upon them via an email, or it's possible that clients have been maybe going to dating sites or something along those lines. Either which way, love scams are generally in today's world, at least what I have observed, these are not things that are happening face to face. This is not human being to human being. This is not a relationship in which you can see them, you can hear them, you can touch them, you can feel them. No, this is something that is going to be established, generally speaking, online. And the hallmark of many of these is that this is going to typically be a person who is going to be in the military. This is what I've seen time and time again. Who doesn't love a good blue-blooded soldier? Who doesn't love a soldier that has been deployed? Who doesn't love a soldier who's doing a good work in some capacity? The latest one that came to me was an individual who had supposedly, quote unquote, found a man online. And this man was supposedly in the military. He was based out of Arkansas. He was, however, deployed over to Ukraine. And in this particular scam, he was trying to get money. He was trying to obtain money so that he might be able to, on his own volition and his own individual work and ministry, do a humanitarian aid by getting money and buying food with it and then giving it to those that needed it. I don't know on how many levels that kind of touches the heartstrings, but it sure did sound like a good thing. It sounded like something that was noble, some good cause, and it really touched in the heart of my client. And in this particular case, unfortunately, through one really weird set of circumstances to another, one set of bad consequences, or shall we say bad luck, bad situations. Well, this soldier, quote unquote, was unable to get money out of his bank. His bank was denying him money, and so he had to turn to his only one true friend, the one woman that he loved so much, the one woman that was going to see him home and see him through, and that was my client. And so in this particular case, we have to be very, very careful when it comes to our loved ones to ask questions. I know that we are Midwest nice. I know that there are going to be times in which you say to yourself, well, that's none of my business what's going on in mom's life, or that's none of my business what's going on in my dad's life. But if you have cause for concern, if you have things that you're observing, a shift in behavior, a shift in financial activity, my friends, this is where you need to be involved. Now, we have discussed this in times past where financial powers of attorney are absolutely crucial. When you're dealing with a parent, you need to make certain that that parent has a financial power of attorney. And this is not so you can usurp authority and you can, do what you want to do with their money. No, this is where you have the financial power of attorney to be able to intervene if you realize that there's something terribly wrong that's going on. Another instance that I can be reminded of is today I have a client who, unfortunately, she cannot retire. It is another woman, and she fell victim to something very similar. Now, whether this gentleman posed to be in the military or not, I don't know, and quite honestly, it's irrelevant. But the reality is that this gentleman fostered, he basically took and he created an opportunity for himself via isolation, via recent divorce, to establish and forge a relationship with her. And little by little, he earned her trust. Little by little, he provided her little clues that she could trust him here, she could trust him there. And he provided what seemed to be very, identifiable proofs that he was who he said he was. My friends, we cannot trust things like this. Today, it is unbelievable with the advent of artificial intelligence, just how easy it is with Photoshop and artificial intelligence and software to develop things that look very real, very authentic. We're talking birth certificates and driver's license and passports and any number of things. I even have an individual in my life who is a hairdresser, and this gentleman who was divorced, he's been single for a very, very long time, fell victim to a woman saying, if you would just pay me some money, I will give you all of these stock certificates to ExxonMobil. And he brought those stock certificates in, and they were just fakes. That's all they were. My friends, it's always dealing with money, and it's always pulling at the heartstrings, saying, why won't you help me? Don't you believe me? Really, really dialing in on their sense of obligation or their sense of doing the right thing. Even my mother almost fell victim to a scam. Except this one was not a love scam. Rather, this one was a scam of threatening violence. If she did not send them money, they were going to send men to her house, and they were going to take her prisoner. And I'm going to tell you, friends, I know that sounds scary, but it was even scarier to her. These are things, random phone calls out of nowhere, that are occurring every single day. These are individuals who you are enjoying your cup of morning coffee and a sign pops up on the front of your computer screen that says something is terribly wrong, you have a virus and you need to call in. You see, these are things that are very real and things that, well, it behooves you as a son, it behooves you as a daughter, it behooves you as a spouse. If you notice a behavior and change, to begin to ask questions, to begin to potentially intervene. I'm so very thankful that I was able to do that very thing for the client who's needing $40,000 to help that humanitarian aid by that soldier friend over in Ukraine. You see, sometimes it's just a blatant ask of money. Another scam that I have seen has been where they begin to build trust. They begin to make certain that you believe that they are who they say they are. And then what they're going to do is they're going to go from pleas of money to maybe helping you invest in fake investments. You see, that's kind of the long game. They're creating a Ponzi scheme, as it were, to get you to invest money and then creating statements and sending those statements to you to show you just how good your investment is actually doing. My friend, I've had a client that was scammed in that way as well. In fact, she was scammed out of $125,000, thinking that her investment was doing fantastically well. Like every single year, it was taking and growing by leaps and bounds. We're not talking, 15 or 20%. No, we're talking by 30 and 35 and 40%. And guess what? Who doesn't like an investment that's doing well? Who doesn't like an investment that's returning in such a meaningful way? And so all I can do is bring awareness as a financial advisor, as a fiduciary. Our job, my job, all of my staff's job is to watch the behavior of our clients, make certain that we do not see transactions happening that are out of the ordinary, that we don't get phone calls and requests for money out of the ordinary. We are responsible not only before you, but also before all regulators and authorities above us to make certain we are safeguarding our clients. And so today, as we touch on the subject of love scams, of just being scammed out of money in general, regardless of whether it's a threat of violence or it's a threat of embarrassment, or it is such as a love and relationship type of scam. My friends, these are things, unfortunately, that we have to guard ourselves from, and we have to guard our friends and our family. So again, observe behavior, make certain that you ask questions, make certain that you are involving yourself and observing what kind of transactional history people have, especially if this is a parent that you're caring for. My friends, we're all in this together. This is something that unfortunately we shouldn't have to be dealing with, but we have to raise awareness for one another because unfortunately it is the world in which we live. I'm Matthew Johnson. Thank you so much for listening and watching. And remember, it's up to you to make today a great day.